Hi guys, Constance here from Cosmopolitan So today I thought I would do a very simple tutorial. This is a basic kitchen skill, homesteading skill that many people feel intimidated by, and that is making your own bread. Now, I have made homemade bread for years. I have a traditional multi-purpose bread recipe on my blog, and I will use that basic bread recipe for making things like hamburger buns, cinnamon rolls, you name it. If it requires bread dough, that is often what I will use. But that recipe does require kneading, or it requires a blender, a special blender that can do it for you. So I thought I would share a different recipe today, and that is one for a bread that requires zero kneading. It is super easy. It is perfect for somebody who wants to have some homemade bread and they are nervous about making it. I promise you, making bread is nothing to be nervous about. Don't be afraid of it. The worst thing that's going to happen is the bread won't rise. It's okay. And if that happens, there's a number of reasons why that could be. I've also got an article on cosmopolitancornbread.com that helps you troubleshoot your bread if you have any sort of issues. But this recipe in particular is so easy. Like I said, there's no kneading involved. It only uses 4 ingredients, and one of those is water. So you cannot get much easier than this. The key to making this bread is patience. So instead of kneading, you simply will wait and allow the dough to do its thing. And depending upon how long you let it go, that will affect the flavor of the bread. Now, if you're starting this in the morning to have in the afternoon or for dinner, you want to let it go for about 6 hours, and it'll still be a great bread. But if you start this dough in the evening and let it do its thing overnight, it will actually develop more of a sourdough flavor and will be even better. So it really is just dependent upon how much time you have and what it is you are going for. But either way, give this bread recipe a try. You won't regret it. It's super easy. So the first ingredient is all-purpose flour. So even if you don't have bread flour, you can still make this. So we are going to start with 3 cups of all-purpose flour. And I am going to do this in a ceramic bowl, pottery bowl. It's best not to do anything that's sourdough or similar to sourdough in metal, because it can have an effect on the dough, on the yeast. And so I'm using a pottery bowl. I would recommend using glass or something like that. So 3 cups all-purpose flour. And my flour tin is super full. So hopefully I don't make a mess in the process of this. All right. 3 cups all-purpose flour. Next, we're going to use some salt. And we're going to use 1.5 teaspoons. Then I'm going to just kind of stir that in a little bit. Next, we're going to add in 1/2 teaspoon of yeast. And I am using a active dry yeast. Okay, so we've got our dry ingredients in here, and I'm going to give them another quick stir. And then the last thing we're going to add in is some lukewarm water. You want 1.5 cups of lukewarm water. You don't want it to be hot, because if it's hot, you're going to kill your yeast. You want it to feel lukewarm, cozy. When you stick your finger in there, it should just feel nice and warm, not hot. And then we're going to stir this all together until it's combined. All right, now take your spatula and just kind of press it into a little bit of a ball shape, just like that. Nothing fancy, super easy. Now I'm going to cover this with plastic wrap, and I'm going to let it sit here for at least 6 hours and just leave it alone. So now that this is covered with plastic wrap, I'm just going to set it here on my counter, let it do its thing for at least 6 hours. Again, the longer the better, or you can do this overnight, which is ideal, but you can do this all in one day as well. So I'm going to leave this alone, and I'm going to put all of my things away, and I'll come back later. So it has now been several hours since I left my dough here to do its thing in the bowl on the counter. I have my oven heating up to 450 degrees, but I'm not just preheating the oven, I'm also preheating a cast iron Dutch oven that has an oven safe lid. So those are both getting nice and hot, and while it's getting hot, I'm going to go ahead and prepare my loaf, get it ready, the dough. Now, like I said, there's no actual kneading that takes place with this dough, so you don't have to worry about that, but you do have to shape it just a little bit. So I'm going to unwrap plastic here. Alright, so as you can see, the dough has risen, it's all bubbly in there. And so now we're going to shape it. Now to do that, I'm going to take some flour and I'm going to sprinkle it on the surface here, because we don't want our dough to stick to the counter. Now I'm also going to take a little bit of extra flour. I'm going to flour my hands because I don't want the dough to stick to my hands. So now we're just going to pull the dough out onto the floured surface, and it's going to be a little stringy, a little weird feeling. That's okay, that's what it does. And then if there's any dough stuck inside the bowl, I'm going to pull that out too. Just take my fingers and kind of scrape it out and stick it on there. This is easy, you guys. I kind of joke and I call this ugly bread, because this dough, when you're getting it started, it looks kind of like a great big ugly mess. But that's alright, because this is going to end up being a gorgeous, delicious loaf of crusty artisan style bread by the time you're done with it. Alright, so I'm flouring up my hands again. If you got little bits of dough stuck to your fingers, you just rub them together with some flour and it gets it right off. Alright, flour up. Now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the dough and I'm just going to kind of pull it together. Get a little more flour here to make it nice and round. Just kind of tuck the sides underneath like this until it's nice and round. That's it. So while the oven and cast iron Dutch oven are heating up, I'm just going to take my plastic wrap and I'm going to cover the dough back up to keep it from getting dry. And then as soon as those are heated, we'll do the next step. Alright, so the oven and Dutch oven are nice and hot. I've got a pot holder right here because I'm about to set the super hot Dutch oven right here. And let me go grab it real quick. Alright, like I said, these are very, very hot. Dutch oven and lid. So, alright, nothing goes in this Dutch oven. It's just the dough. So let me peel off the plastic. I'm going to flour my hands with some of the flour I still have here. And I'm just going to pick this up, tuck the sides in again. And drop it in. Put the lid back on. And this is going to go in the oven for 30 minutes with the lid, and then you take the lid off and bake for 15 more. Alright, and just like that, we have this beautiful loaf of bread. I'm going to let it cool here on the rack for a little bit until it's not quite so screaming hot, because you don't want to cut into bread when it's straight out of the oven, because if you do, you're going to let all the steam out and your bread is going to get dry. So you actually want this to cool down quite a bit until it's warm but not screaming hot. But you can actually hear the crust crackling. So that is all that it takes to make a loaf of artisan, crusty bread, homemade from scratch, 4 simple ingredients, easy steps, and there's no kneading necessary. And so because of that, this is the perfect bread for somebody who is new to baking or is nervous about yeast breads. You saw how easy this was to do, and it's really hard to mess it up. So I will put a printable version of this recipe on my blog, cosmopolitancornbread.com, where I will also be sharing this video. If you are watching it on YouTube, you will find the link for that in the description down below, and I'll put it in a card up in the corner. So if you are new to my channel, again, my name is Constance, and I'm a blogger at cosmopolitancornbread.com, and here on my channel I share about 3 videos a week on homesteading, home cooking, and back to basics. And if you like these sorts of things, be sure to hit the subscribe button. I also have a free newsletter that you can sign up for, and you'll get Cosmopolitan Cornbread in your inbox. That way you will never miss any of the new videos, recipes, or articles. So thanks for joining me here at the homestead, and I'll talk to y'all next time.